in the outer veggies and in the dirt. And sometimes even in the inner veggies. I don't know how that works, but probiotics can be inside the vegetables too. I'm also gonna cut up this turnip. I wanted watermelon radish, but again, they were out of watermelon radish. And then it made me wish, because I was in here a couple days ago and there was like 10 of them. And I wish I would have bought them. Should have bought all 10. So instead I got a big turnip because I wanted to show, I wanted to model the art of eating raw vegetables. Because not that cooking isn't a great thing, because cooking is a great thing, and I love cooking, but it's spring. And spring is the time to shed the winter weight. Spring is the time to detox. It's the time to lighten. It's the time we want to feel lighter in our being. We want to be more active. We don't need to eat as much. You find yourself just eating much smaller portions in the spring than in winter. And as the weather gets warmer, we definitely don't crave much, cooked meals, as many cooked meals. And so it's important to let your body go with that. So radishes, I talked about earlier, are so cleansing and detoxifying, and they're one of the best vegetables that you can consume in the spring. And they're gonna help with that kind of metabolic boost. They're gonna also help with the clearing. And you can feel it in your gut. When you eat radishes, it's just, your gut feels really clean, and it happens right away. It's a totally different experience. If you go eat a Hawaiian sweet roll, it's like you can barely swallow it, it's so sticky, right? And then you imagine what that's doing. That's getting stuck in your intestines. Your throat has to deal with it, in your mouth, you're like, oh, and then it's barely going down. And that same action of being sticky and barely moving through the body is in your gut. And then if you have like something like sauerkraut with that, or you have radishes, all of a sudden you feel like it's like everything can move again. And radishes also help to kind of clear stagnation. So in winter, it's a time to actually kind of load up on higher calorie, denser foods. And then in the spring, we want foods that clear the stagnation, the leftover stagnation from the winter, so we can move. So you should be having about 3 bowel movements a day in the spring, and probiotic, anything probiotic is going to help you. Bee kvass is definitely a drink that if you're having problems being regular, you don't need to worry about that. The bee kvass, but all fermented foods really help make you regular. And there's not many people, no matter how, I've never met anyone, no matter how concentrated they were, that person wasn't helped by bee kvass or some type of probiotic lacto-fermented food. I've known people who, they were in the hospital 8 days and they were on all these horrible laxatives and nothing was working, and then they just drank bee kvass or they had sauerkraut juice, and then it was like, okay, everything's fine. Nature's wisdom. And those probiotics are, they're enzymatically active. There's this process called enzymatic activation, and the more it ferments, the more active the enzymes become. So in a fermentation, you've got billions of enzymes, billions of probiotics, and all these amazing and antioxidants and increased nutrients, and all these things are going to help move the energy through where it needs to go, because that's what spring's all about. You want to keep moving. It's about moving, it's about growth, it's about new beginnings. And it's about ending the stagnation of winter, where winter is a time to reflect and nurture yourself and go inward. Spring is expansion. Okay, so, all right, I'm going to pass these turnips around so everybody can have some turnip. And it might seem strange having raw turnip, but it's so fresh and good. It's delicious, and then it has the sulfur, which is really healthy for the body as well. Yeah. And I actually forgot to grab the food. So the first exciting thing that we're gonna make is a it's kind of winter meets spring, lacto-fermented salsa that's tomato free. So a lot of people can't have tomatoes because they're in the nightshade family or some reason, or they're not in season and people just want to eat with the season, because tomatoes just taste so much better when they're locally grown and fresh. So this is a great thing that you can do when tomatoes aren't in season, or if you're just trying to stay away from tomatoes. And it's a great way to incorporate your veggies. So I'm taking the rest of this turnip. There happens to be some brown stuff that I'm cutting out here. And then don't eat all your veggies because you want to save some veggies for the dip.
So what can you do if you don't digest veggies?
Yeah, that's exactly what I need. Both of those. Yep. Okay.
He's gonna say what?
Okay. How fast can two women figure out how to use a food processor?
Also, I have some sliced up daikon. I want like daikon.
Oh, I love daikon.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, if you could just pass it around so everybody gets a little bit, that'd be awesome.
Took the big daikon.
Yeah,
That's great. That's great.
Okay, so here we go. See, this was what I was, there's the brown, I wouldn't eat anything that looks like it could be rotting, like brown. There's no reason to put that in your body because we don't want the energy of rot in our body. We want the energy of freshness. Now, fermentation, someone could say, well, fermentation is rotting, isn't it? Well, yes and no. I mean, if you find a fruit in the forest that's rotting, it's fermenting and it's rotting. But lacto-fermentation is a little bit, what we do in a controlled environment in sanitary conditions is a lot different. And although, there are cultures that eat rotten things that are fermented that do happen to have health benefits. Certain eggs, there's certain interesting things that I've tried that I almost threw up, and that supposedly it was really healthy, like natto. Have you?
Oh, I know natto miso.
Whew.
That's
So,
intense stuff.
yeah, and it smells very, very extremely rotten. It smells like something you shouldn't be eating, and it's slimy. It's like the last thing that anybody would want to eat. Supposedly it's good for you. So now here's, I'm cutting the beet for our carrot beet salsa, and I'm kind of taking out the, I'm not really peeling it, I'm just looking for divots and little pits that could have mold or like little hairs that could have slime. And I'm just carefully removing those and not really peeling because I'm trying to leave the minerals in the skin intact mostly and the probiotics.
So in general, do you stay away from tomatoes? You personally?
You know what, I do okay with tomatoes in the summer when it's really hot. That's when I do a lot of tomatoes. But other than that, I don't really crave them. And so I just feel like just kind of listen to my body. I like to try to eat with the seasons and eat what's local and freshly available because I believe that it's healthier to do that. And it helps us to, a lot of nutritionists believe that, and Chinese medicine doctors believe that that's what helps our body adjust, is the plants that are there for us, growing at the time and the climate that we live, have properties that are helping us to adjust to the climate just like the plants are adjusting to the climate. Okay, so I'm gonna put these beets. So you don't have to make the chunks like too small, but if you make them too big, what's gonna happen is when you go to pulverize, if the chunks are too big, it's not gonna be as even, and the stuff on the top won't massacate. Does that make sense? So that's why I always cut smaller pieces.
It's a beautiful beet. The color is amazing.
It's so beautiful, and a lot of times, I should pass this around. So we test the sugar bricks when we make the beet kvass at our facility, and so the first way we test the sugar bricks is like this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Okay, it's a 15. We do the little, we have a little device to actually see what the number is, and that tells us how many beets we should be fermenting with per vat. because if it's too much sugar, it's like, could be like our September 13th batch that when you open it, it's like, shh, oops. Which it tastes amazing, but it can be, if you're wearing white, look out.
Oh boy, really.
Yeah, so here, so you can get a little plate.
The fact that it ferments, does it have like an alcohol? I always think of fermentation with alcohol too, but there's no correlation between the fermentation you do and.
Well, kombucha has alcohol. You know, if you were to juice, is that enough? If you were to juice a beet and then ferment it, you would get alcohol. But a kvass is a little different because it's whole chunks of beet fermenting in a brine. So you can taste that raw beet. Now, one of the things that some people get is they get a reaction when they eat a raw beet, and it's like because I've never eaten a raw beet, and you get this kind of burny, slightly itchy sensation in your throat. It doesn't happen with all beets, but that's because beets are high in oxalic acid. Has anyone ever heard of oxalic acid? And oxalic acid aggravates, it's also in tomatoes, it aggravates people that have any kind of joint issues or kidney issues. And it's really actually hard on the kidneys. And in diets where, you know, in populations where people eat a lot of raw vegetables, like, and they, you know, they can handle it, but most of us didn't grow up eating a lot of raw vegetables, and so our body doesn't do well breaking down the oxalic acids. One of the beautiful things about fermentation is the lactic acid in the fermentation actually neutralizes the oxalics, so that they don't interfere with your kidneys and all the other things that they do. So not only is a fermented beverage or a fermented condiment or sauerkraut or anything you ferment for that matter, increasing the enzymes, the probiotics, it's also decreasing harmful compounds, and actually there's several toxins that completely become eliminated after fermentation. Toxins that could just be from pesticides, insecticide, and even naturally occurring toxins in nature that will be eliminated from lacto-fermentation. So, okay, so we have the turnip in here, we have the beet, and now I'm going to put my carrots in here. Okay, carrots. I love the colors.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, you know what would be really nice? But we have parsley, yes, perfect. So you can do cilantro, or you can do parsley in this. Either one of those work really well. We're gonna do cilantro. And the color just looks so beautiful. I really like the red onion, although white onion works fine too, but I just like the flavor of a red onion in a salsa. And this, it always feels strange for me to call this salsa, because it is and it isn't. And it can be used as a marinade, a dip. It can be turned into bruschetta topping, or it can be turned into marinara. Or you can use it on top of a tostada. I mean, it's just so beautiful. When you see it, it's just so beautiful. Okay, so cutting up the onion. And then we're going to add the parsley. And this, does anybody remember this from?
Yeah. Black radish?
Black radish,
Oh,
yeah. And it's
crazy?
pretty much the spiciest, most potent radish. Now, these stems are pretty thick, but I'm going to go ahead and include them because this is something you want the texture. You know, if I was making a pesto, I wouldn't want like chunky stemmy things in my pesto. I want chunks but not the stem. But this is a little bit different because you've got the toughness of the beet. It just actually goes nicely. So now we've got our... Okay, we've got a jalapeno. Is there anybody who can't handle jalapeno?
Little spice is good.
Yeah, I don't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the seeds. I'm actually going to. I don't know if you've ever seen this trick, but I'm actually going to remove the seeds. You want to be really careful because if you touch your eye, you rub your eye after you do this, it's going to be very painful for a long time.
None of us have done that.
Never.
It's already hurting my throat.
Oh, yeah. That can use that for sinuses.
Okay. So aren't you glad that I didn't pass the jalapeno?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so glad I didn't wear eye makeup. Okay. Okay. Excuse me. Going to add salt.
What you got in there?
A little bit here. And then salt.
It's spicy, huh?
You can smell it?
Oh, yeah, I just got some in my throat.
Actually,
Talk about clearing.
oh my gosh.
Okay, this is Farmhouse Culture. One of my favorite companies. They're local here. And it's a sauerkraut. It's smoked jalapeno, as if we need more jalapeno.
Yes, we do.
Clears the heart blockages that prevents heart attack. It's made from jalapenos. So and you don't need to take the pharmaceutical. You can actually get the same benefits from just consuming a lot of jalapenos in your diet. Yeah. Peppers in general, it goes back to what we talked about, like clearing, right? Moving things through and clearing things out. So I definitely am putting the juice in here. You can also do lemon juice. You can do kefir whey also, which I brought today to show you, but because we have the sauerkraut, it will ferment with the cultures here and some of the cultures that are naturally occurring in the veggies, and we don't really need to add the whey. And then our friend, look at this.
It's gorgeous. It's like the most beautiful thing.
I've never seen those.
I know, me neither. They're gorgeous.
The energy of this thing. I mean, what does this tell you when you hold it? Like, what's the energy of this?
It's really rich. It feels really.
Yeah. And I feel like strength. It's dense. It's heavy. It just, to me, it's not like if you hold up parsley, it's delicate and light, and this is just this like.
Does that grow here?
It's serious, right? Serious business.
Yeah. Do they grow here? Those grow here locally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they sell them here in Vegas too.
Well, I can get that whole thing from here.
Oh, you know what? I know there's a fan here. And how do you turn it on? That's probably garbage disposal. That's radio. Oh, there we go. Oh gosh. Just
Lights. Good job. Okay. Good job.
okay, I'll do that for next
It is.
I would offer you black radish, but I don't think it'll help. Alright, so I'm gonna do.
It's super spicy. The black radish is very spicy.
It's so spicy, but only when you first, just like all radishes,
Yeah.
the sulfur, starts to dissipate as it sits, and then it loses its spice. But right now, if you were to eat that, it's pretty darn spicy. Okay, so we have our lid here.
It has to sit on the base a little differently.
Okay, sorry. It's not facing. I'm like, wait a second. What's going on? It's because it's not facing me.
Ours is finicky too, so is it on the bottom good, Kelly? Sometimes you have to kind of move it around a bit.
No, I think
Make
I just
sure it's
have it on
locked in.
totally wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, then it should click. Yeah, it's click.
There we
Yeah,
go.
that sounds like better.
Okay, now I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to stir a little actually pulsing it. I was just overzealous and I overfilled it. Just fine, it just takes a lot longer.
Cranberry stuffing.
Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil. One of the things I like about the oil in there is that it's really good for coating. Excuse me. The cells, so that is there butter in there? Thank you. It's really good for coating the outer cells in vegetables, so it helps to prevent oxidation. And then you get the health benefits of the olive oil as well.
I think I read the other.
Thank you so much.
I think you have to go the other way, Kelly. We have that at the back. Kind of let it click on.
You're right.
Yep, there you go. Just let it, yep.
There it is. Okay, there it is. And that's prior to fermentation. Oh, they took it out. That's a bummer. Well, anyway, I had one in here in the last class. And I guess someone really wanted it. Oh, no, it's here. So this is prior, so use a taste prior to fermentation and then after fermentation.
How long does that process take, Kelly, for it to be fermented?
This one fermented I did this on Friday, so this was 4 days. You don't have to ferment it for that long.
You have to can it to seal it.
No, with fermentation is a different type of food preservation. So humans have been fermenting for over 15,000 years. Louis Pasteur, the inventor of pasteurization, that's only been happening for the last 100 years. And on his deathbed, he said, I was wrong. He said, pasteurization isn't right, for it's fermentation that we need to continue because we're losing all the nutrition in our food from what I've been teaching people. So in certain cases, I mean, you live in certain areas where you have to pasteurize because there's so much disease and you have to pasteurize. But if you can not do that, you're going to be a lot healthier. The other amazing thing is that even in meat, fermentation will completely kill foodborne pathogens. So there was a study, and it was a salami company, an old world salami company, because salami is not cooked, it's a ferment, it's a lactic acid ferment. And Sandra Katz was telling the story about this old world salami company, and they injected a salami with Listeria, coliform, E. coli, the nastiest bacteria that cause foodborne illness. And they sent it to the FDA for testing. By the time the FDA received it and tested it, there was no detectable trace of any foodborne pathogen. So, and why is that? It's because the word, when we say lacto-fermentation, that's lactic acid. And for some reason, bacteria, no other bacterial strains that are harmful can actually survive the lactic acid that the lactobacillus cultures produce as a byproduct of what of the material that they're digesting, and they're excreting lactic acid. They're also excreting CO2, which is why that kombucha and that beet kvass can get fizzy and carbonated. Okay. So thank you. Yeah, I can actually talk now without coughing. It's great. Okay, so forgive me too if I'm stuttering. It's like I'm literally flying with like a week of no sleep. So I'm sorry, but the good news is that I'm really healthy, even though I'm totally sleep deprived. Okay, so there's one. This is the spicy one that I just made that hasn't gone through fermentation yet. So you can just dip and then taste it and then pass it on.
Okay.
There's also like these chips too. I just don't know how.
This is the one that has.
Does it smell so
really
really
good?
great?
Yeah,
this is a fresh one.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
Try a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Spices.
And then this is the fermented one. And
So that one was the fermented one?
No, this one is.
Okay.
So this one doesn't have pepper? Yeah, this is the one.
But this one had the jalapeno as well, right?
Did last week's have?
Kelly,
no.
you didn't put the jalapeno, okay.
it has cilantro. The difference is everything's the same except there was no turnip in the last one. In the fermented one, there's no turnip and there's no jalapeno. There's garlic. I would have put garlic in here, but I just didn't. I didn't.
Is it fermented?
Basically, what I like to show people is how to take what's around you and how to work with what's around you. Instead of grab a recipe and feel like you have to just use what's there, even though this tomato came 15,000 miles to get there out of season. I love to teach people to be passionate about improvising and to be creative and have fun. It's so much more fun. You know, your kitchen should be a constant place for scientific experiments and having fun and be okay with making mistakes. And when you adopt that mentality of I'm going to come in here and have fun and experiment, what ends up happening is you just learn to take anything in your fridge, open it up, and just start making stuff. And nothing goes to waste. It's really beautiful. Or you get a CSA and you get that CSA box and you just intuitively know right what to do and you just don't even have to think about it. And you just know that these greens are going to go good with this garlic and this is going to go good with this and I can do this, and it just kind of happens. And especially when you're a busy parent, you're flying by the seat of your pants. All you have time to do is open the fridge and then just whip stuff together and that's been sitting there. I've got to use that first. I've got to use that. Okay, what do I do with this? Okay, I'll use a little of that. Right? And then with fermentation, especially if you have, someone gives you, hey, I've got all these beets, or hey, I've got all these pears, knowing how to take that bounty and how to ferment it, what an amazing gift, because you can share it with other people. Once you ferment something, you stick it in the fridge, it'll last for months, if not years.
And the fermented, there's formulas for how much you put in, and it's the sauerkraut. I'm not sure what actually is causing the fermentation. The sauerkraut you put in, and the.
So this would actually ferment without sauerkraut, because remember, so fermentation is a metabolic process where either yeast or some bacteria or mold or some kind of hopefully beneficial probiotic is digesting nutrients in the medium that it's in and excreting a byproduct. In this case, this is a lacto-fermentation. So in this case, we have Lactobacillus cultures. Okay, in a vegetable ferment, you've got Lactobacillus plantarum. The main thing here is Mesotroides leuconostic, but these guys in 3 days are gone because the Lactobacillus cultures start to overpopulate and create that, and then they produce the lactic acid, and the Mesotroides leuconostic can't survive in that. But there's a little bit. It's not that it can't survive. It's just they get really crowded out, and the hardier ones like the plantarum, the strong, it's like survival of the fittest. The plantarum, they're really hardy and they start to really multiply, and it just happens to be that those plantarum are the probiotics that are proven to boost digestive and immune health. right? And so because they're so hardy, they can survive the stomach acid. And those are the ones you want. Miso culture is so hardy, you know, and if you think that some of that stuff's fermenting for 2 years, so you know those cultures are gonna be really hardy and really strong. They're gonna outcompete other things, and you want that in your gut. You want strong, hardy cultures that can outcompete any type of organisms that come in. So I was telling, how many of you were on Thursday at the, 1, 2, 3, okay. So since I've been doing this and eating kind of on this lifestyle, even though I don't get to sleep very much, but since I've been on the healthy lifestyle, I haven't needed to go to a doctor in 7 years now. I just don't need to. I don't get sick. I don't have allergies anymore. I don't have all the hormonal problems I used to have. I grew up having bronchitis. Like 3 times a year. I grew up having all these health problems, acne all over, everything you could think of. You know, major hormonal issues. At one point I had like crazy chronic depression and all these things. And it's all just because of poor nutrition and not knowing how to, you know, poor nutrition is, it's not really caused because we lack fermented foods in our diet, but poor nutrition is caused because we live in a world where processed food and mass industrial agriculture predominates the food supply, and there's just hardly any nutrition left in our food. We're getting, you know, your great grandmother, if she were to, if you were to get the same amount of nutrients in your bowl of spinach, in her bowl of spinach, you would have to eat a bathtub of spinach. The soil is very depleted. The plants have been hybrid to taste better, to be lighter, to be less bitter, and they're breeding the minerals out of them. A lot of farmers now are adding, and gardeners are adding azomite, rock mineral dust, to bring minerals back into the soil so we can revitalize our plants, and bringing back some of these heirloom and heritage seeds and vegetables, right, that haven't been hybridized or worst case scenario, genetically modified. And by the way, that's a whole other topic, because GMOs definitely destroy gut health. They do really funny things to your beneficial cultures, because because beneficial cultures, basically they are these single-celled organisms, these single-cell bacteria, and they take in genetic information, and then they hold on to it, and then they all wait, and then they secrete a signal, which is like a little protein, to have a benefit on the body, whether it's increase your heart health, whether it's attack something and boost your white blood cell count. They do, you know, whether it's like improve your brain function. Probiotics, you've got about 1 to 300 trillion, and we talked about this on Thursday, but I just want everybody to know this, because you are a host to this universe of probiotics, and they're there to keep you healthy so that they can survive. If you take antibiotics, you most likely have destroyed species of probiotics that you do not have anymore, that you might have had. You can get them, most of them again. Some people, they do fecal transplants because they're gonna die, because they're so wiped out, they need a fecal transplant. Yeah, that's huge right now, and it's saving people's lives everywhere. But you don't have to, I am a firm believer, there's no scientists that have studied this, but I'm a firm believer that you don't need a fecal transplant, that you can get the probiotics by incorporating raw, fresh vegetables and lacto-fermented homemade foods and dairy products, and maybe even some, I know people that do it with meats and fermenting meat as well, that you can get your those strains that are missing from the human microbiome back. And you can tell someone who is healthy and they have a very flourishing microbiome, you can tell it in their energy levels, right? Versus someone who's been taking a lot of antibiotics and they don't have that vitality. And then what I love is watching people who are almost dying and they have no energy, and they're just always feeling like they don't have the mental clarity and the sharpness and the vitality that they want, and then watching them convert to a nutrient-dense, diet where they're incorporating more enzymes and probiotics and denser nutrition, and watch what that does. It's amazing, and you see, their health improve. I love that. So, okay, I'm going on and on. I'm just too passionate about our inner universe.
That was delicious, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh
it
my
was.
God.
Isn't it good? I like
so good.
Yeah, it's so good. And just, it's so good. And just how healthy is that? It's amazing, Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is really cool because it's so easy. Okay, so here, for some reason there's only 4 of those little potatoes left, so I'm going to just take that as that one. Take this. Here, what? You guys want to eat them first?
Oh,
yeah. Oh, here, I'll throw this into here. There we go. Improvise. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, let's do
That
that.
goes your like daikon.
Oh no! I know I should have taken
It's a
some
server.
celery because there's more celery.
Oh.
Okay. All right, you guys can finish that. Oh, by the way, at the end you get to fill your little jar. Everyone gets a jar and you get to fill it with something that I make here. Okay. So this is this pesto has really sweet energy. It has all the sweetness of spring. It's here to nurture us. It's here to detoxify us and give us nutrients. And it's made with so much love because I harvested most of the greens in here from the property where we live.
Wow.
So there's nasturtium, there's wild lemon balm, and lemon balm has a really nice calming and soothing effect on the body. Actually, you have to be careful with too much lemon balm. You can actually cause drowsiness. It's a really good bedtime tea. But the pesto also has garlic and onion. It's got leeks. It's got stimulating herbs as well. So I don't find it makes me drowsy, but I find it makes me feel really balanced and calm. So it does have. This is the one that has walnuts. So you probably don't want to.
Okay.
Is it a fermented pesto?
It hasn't. I didn't ferment it because I added. I mean, it actually has fermented. It will ferment in the fridge. Sometimes I ferment my pestos, but often I just let them kind of slowly. I don't like them over fermented. This one has my homemade kefir, and I showed on Thursday. I brought the kefir. Here is an example of how to extract the whey from the kefir. You could, if you were sensitive to some of the dairy particles in the kefir, you could actually just extract the probiotic out of the homemade kefir, which is what I did here with this MacGyverous contraption because I lost my coffee filter. Oh, by the way, I heard that MacGyver show's coming back on. It's going to be a woman. Yes! Oh my god. I'm not a TV watcher, but I think I might be. Okay, so I just took a compostable cup and I put a hole in it and then I stuck the coffee filter, poured the kefir, and now I've got kefir cheese.
You do have kefir. And the bottom is dairy-less then.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some residue. I mean, if you're extremely sensitive,
Yeah.
some people can't even have the whey, but most people who are sensitive to dairy can definitely have the whey. And this is trillions of probiotics in a liquid form.
Yeah.
This is, you can't find that out.
So the bottom is the way.
Yeah, and
You
that's
just take a shot of it?
That's like you pay, if you were gonna get that amount of probiotic in such a bioavailable form, you didn't even want to know how much you would have to pay in the store. And you're not gonna get it from the capsule because the capsule is dried up and you're not getting all the other enzymes and all the other stuff. You're just getting the probiotic and that's it, right? A lot of those capsules, there's GMO influence because what they're feeding the cultures, it's not always great. Some brands are pretty good. Garden of Life, Primal, Defense Ultra is really good, and they try to actually get kefir cultures in there because they know that kefir cultures are the only cultures that are proven to totally repopulate human gut health. It happens to be that a kefir culture, a dairy, not water kefir. Water kefir is totally different. A dairy kefir culture happens to have the perfect symbiosis of beneficial yeast and bacteria that's perfect for human gut health. And it's they call it a mother goddess culture. Because people have worshipped these, they look like little cauliflower brain type squishy things. Our next class together, I'll make sure, or maybe we'll do the kefir class next, and I can teach you guys how to make kefir and show you what they look like. It's amazing, but the cultures themselves go back over 1,000 years. One's from the Tibetan region, and one's from Caucasus Mountains, and both regions were high mountain regions where they lived off of milk mostly because there was not much vegetation in these high mountains. And so they considered this culture sacred because it preserved their milk and made it so healthy. And what kefir does is it's a ferment, so it breaks down all the calcium and the protein and all the minerals, and it breaks it down so that it's totally bioavailable for your body. So it turns milk, something hard to digest, into a complete superfood. And you're just getting this rich nutrition. It's so energizing. And people that have candida, that go on a candida diet, these poor people starve themselves. They don't have any carbs, no glucose for their brain. And I just feel so sorry for these people who do these candida diets, and then they get their levels tested and they still have it. All you need to do is just drink a cup of kefir every morning for breakfast for 2 weeks, and your levels totally go back into check.
And it's a probiotic kefir, so you just get you can get one of those off the shelf.
No, what's in the store is not the same. So you can go. I saw on Craigslist, by the way, there's a Tibetan mother. I found on Craigslist. Sometimes you can find them on eBay. You can find people all over the world sell their freeze-dried kefir. I like to get them fresh, but my favorite way to obtain kefir is to join your local Western Price Foundation chapter. Get on the Yahoo group and just put a word out there. Hey, does anybody have a kefir culture? Because everyone in the Western Price Foundation does kefir, and they all have so much that they start to blend the grains in their smoothies because they start to multiply so much. They don't know what to do with it. They call it exploding. My kefir's exploding, so it's time to give it away. Okay, so that's that. So now this whey could be used. So this could be poured into there, right? Instead of the kraut juice.
Sure.
Yeah, and that would be trillions of probiotics going in there, and then it has a nice kind of. It's almost like it's slightly sour, but not. I really like the flavor. My son thinks it's really gross, but I love it. And when you can use it as a base for any dressing, and you'll make any dressing homemade it'll be instantly probiotic. And then if you can even let it ferment for a day or two, and get it even more probiotic. With dressings, they ferment really fast, so I usually don't even put them out. I mean, sometimes I put them out at room temperature, but usually I just stick them in the fridge because I know they're gonna go. What the fridge does is it slows it down. So you put something fermented, some probiotic thing in the fridge, the probiotics don't die because of the cold, but the cold slows them down. They thrive at warmer temperatures, although some probiotics actually like colder temperatures. There's thousands of different species, right, of probiotics.
Sorry, can you stand to the camera?
Oh. Some of these probiotics thrive at higher temperatures, and some of these probiotics thrive at lower temperatures. So there's different strains and species. The Lacto-Bacillus plantarum happens to thrive around 70 degrees. So when we ferment our bee kvass, we usually keep it around. We have a temperature controlled fermentation room. Oh, that's the other thing is I've done. You can get the bee kvass. You can make your own bee kvass. You can buy our bee kvass. Creative Cultures. This is what the little thing looks like. I usually bring a bottle, but I didn't bring one. But you can actually add bee kvass to this, and that would be another way to add the probiotics. And if I were to add bee kvass, I might actually leave this. Whey is so probiotic that there's so many trillions of these microorganisms that if you leave this in the fridge with the whey, it's going to do something more than sauerkraut juice or bee kvass would, if that makes sense. So, okay, now this pesto, I wanted you to taste, I'm actually going to make a ranch type of dressing, but I wanted you to pass this around so you can taste how fresh and amazing that live probiotic pesto is. And what's nice about the pesto is you have lemon and you have the virgin unrefined organic olive oil, and then you've got the probiotics, and what that's going to do is that's going to give you a nice shelf life. The more acids like lemon juice or whey, and the more oil, the longer your shelf life on your pesto is going to be. Some people try to make pesto with tons of greens and they hardly use any oil. It just gets brown and it oxidizes, and it just doesn't have that same nurturing satisfaction. And oils are so essential for everything. I mean, they keep us lubricated, and they're the brain food, and they keep everything going the way they need. The way our body needs to go, as long as they're the right types of oils, the healthy, unrefined oils. It doesn't matter if they're saturated or not. We need plenty of saturated fat. And although in the spring we need way less saturated fat, we need more of of the lighter oils in the spring. Like olive is really good. You know, in the winter I still do ghee. I'm just a ghee hound. I can't help it. I fry everything in ghee. I just love it, and to me, it's the most stable. It's even more stable than coconut oil. You know, as far as stability goes, and not having to worry about it going rancid or breaking down. But you know, ultimately in the winter, you're going to do oils that are more lardy and heavy, and then as we move into spring and summer, you'll find yourself needing less oils. Fall is when you need the most oils out of all, because fall is the driest time for our bodies and in the atmosphere. It's when we get the parched lips, like no matter how much water we drink. But if you do more healthy oils, you'll find that you feel more energized and lubricated and nourished in the fall. So, what did you guys think?
Delicious.
Yeah. I actually have, a free recipe. That's a video recipe. If you go to our Facebook page, I think it's like on the left-hand side, you'll see like us to get our free recipe or something like that, and then you put in your email, and then it sends you a video. And it teaches, it's me teaching how to make a probiotic pesto. And I think I do kefir, but even if you don't have kefir, that's okay. You could use store-bought kefir. I mean, it still has some health benefit. It's just that store-bought kefir isn't typically fermented enough to be as healthy, and they don't have this, they don't use a grain. They're using a powdered probiotic from a biotech company, and then fermenting their dairy, and they're under fermenting so it doesn't taste overly sour. The more sour your kefir is, the more lactic acid and the more probiotic, most likely the more probiotic, and the more broken down the irritating parts of dairy are going to be, so that it's just, so it doesn't irritate you, so that you just power through your day with the kefir. Okay, now you're gonna be amazed at how easy this is. It's crazy. So I have this is one of my favorite brands, Green Valley Organics. They make a lactose-free sour cream, and it has live cultures. And it's like, look at this, it's like cream cheese. See how thick that is? I love it. Without any kind of thickeners. I can't stand, I never buy products that have gums and just tapioca starches and thickeners. And I just was so impressed that they were able to do this with their cultures.
It's sour cream.
It's sour cream, yeah. You can make your own sour cream as well. That's a separate class, but sour cream and yogurt are really easy to make. All you do is buy this and you add it to cream and you let it ferment. That's all you do. You just want to make sure your conditions are nice and sanitary when you do that. Okay, so here's the sour cream. And I'm going to take this beautiful pesto made with love.
It tastes like love.
It really,
I don't even like pesto.
it really is. It really is special. And then, we talked about the quantum physics of our inner universe and about energy and how, at the core, we're this complex, multicellular organism, right? We've got trillions of these bacterial cells that we're host to, and only 10% have human DNA. Only 10%. So you are a host. And then we talked about, on Thursday, we talked about how this inner universe, this being that we are, how at the core of, we're not just a walking bag of molecules and water in a spiking environment. Because underlying those molecules and cells is, neutrons and protons and nucleus and electrons. And then what are those made up of? They're made of bosons and pions. And I could go on and on and on about all the funny names that are in quantum physics, right? These subatomic particles. And then what are they made of? Well, it's ultimately energy vibrating at certain frequencies, right? And scientists have found that there's certain frequencies that are promote healing, right? So if you have something horrible happen to your arm and it's bleeding, there's going to be this concentrated source of positive ions, and having something like bentonite clay or something soothing like aloe, you're adding these negative ions, and you're basically starting to at the quantum level, you're changing the frequency. If you think about energy, right? Your heart is beating at 2.5 watts per second. It is the biggest energy conductor in your body is your heart. And that energy field is regulating all types of things. And it's actually doing, a lot of it is happening through the water molecules in your body. And the way that the energy is making the water molecules spin and it carries information throughout the body. And so that water, because you're mostly water, that water can be influenced. And just like when Dr. Morimoto first did the experiment where he took a, he took a glass of water or bottle of water and then and they wrote hate on it, and they took a no and they wrote love on it. And then a few days later, after saying hate, 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 and love, 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 they froze, they took a plate and they froze, on the glass plate, they froze droplets. And then when they looked at them in an electron microscope, the love water molecules, this beautiful, symmetrical, perfectly like a snowflake. Okay, and then the other one was, looked like kind of graffiti art that like someone just did it, but they didn't have any purpose. And it was just super messy and there was no pattern. It looked like a garbage dump, basically. So, so being that our bodies are these powerful or energetic forces, and being that we're mostly made up of water and these other cells, our thoughts, as I said on Thursday, are number one as far as to be healing and to be healthy, the thoughts that we think about our body. And then those thoughts create our actions and our cravings, right? And then we stop following our tongue and we start following the feeling in our gut and the feeling in our heart, which is really different than craving with our tongue. Not only that, but then you've got the love energy in something like this. It's like making its own love energy, and then you're adding it. It's just crazy, right? Because it's got all the enzymes and the probiotics, and they're all like doing their thing, and then you're charging them, and they're just, I don't even know how to describe that, but.
That's the happy dance.
Okay, so this does have the walnuts, but we're gonna make the walnut-free version. There's another one of these in there, and a new blade one you can too.
So that sour cream is dairy, right, Kelly?
So that's the it does.
I'm okay with dairy. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, it does have dairy.
It looks
So my
delicious.
apologies if
No, it's good.
can't have dairy. I'll pass around the one if you guys want to look at it. Oh, and one of the things, you can also add a little. You could add a little olive oil if you wanted to. So the next, so that's a dip. See, and all it was just your,
Yeah.
Well, I make a whole pitcher full of pesto. So why bother making small amounts? It lasts a long time. So I make I have a Vitamix. I make the whole thing full, and then I just get a bunch of little jars, my leftover sauerkraut jars that I bought at Woolly for, Trader Joe's, whatever. And then I pour into jars, and then it sits in the fridge. And what's nice about having it in little jars is you don't have to worry about oxidation, and it lasts a lot longer because you just pull out one jar and you start to open it, right? It gets exposed to the air. But if you're eating it every day, it's not going to oxidize because you're pulling it off the top. And obviously, this has a lot of oil, so we don't have to worry about it oxidizing as much either. What do you think? Oh yeah. I didn't. The one ingredient that I forgot is salt. I forgot to add salt.
You actually don't need it. I think it's delicious. That's what, yeah.
Okay.
I'm curious how much probiotic you eat daily.
The other thing you can do with this is you can blend in spinach and onion, and you can make a spinach dip with this. That's super probiotic, it's super delicious, for chips or whatever. And then you could also add lemon and olive oil and make a ranch dressing. But what I'm going to show you now is very similar to what we just did, but this is what you do when you don't have, it doesn't fit. Oh, that's okay. This is what you do when you don't have pesto. It's a different, The reason why I would do this is because it's not really.
It says no lactose. It does have lactose free.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, I don't know.
That's what she said.
It's always good to sing. It's always good to sing to your probiotics.
It's always good to what?
It's always good to sing to your probiotics and to your food.
Sing to them? What if you don't think well? Is that okay? They don't care.
As long as you sing with love.
That's right.
Okay.
Claudia, will you do the honors?
What?
Will you do the honors?
If you think about women in ancient cultures, they always sing while they're preparing their foods, right?
Right.
And there's something so beautiful about that, especially when you're doing something really hands-on, like pounding or grinding. And if you've ever done that singing with other people, it just really takes you back to your ancient roots. And it's something really special, really special. I like doing it with kraut. I like to put a blanket out you can put a blanket out in your backyard, and you just get a big bowl, and you go and you sit on your knees. You can put the blanket on the grass, and then you knead your kraut. And it's just so different than being stuck in a kitchen, and it's just this whole other experience, and it's really beautiful. And then you're out of the moldy area where, the mold likes to grow in kitchens, and then you're just welcoming, more outside yeast and bacteria as opposed to inside, which has more, well, depending on where you live, could have more toxins and chemicals and things. Okay, so, all right, now I'm going to take the parsley and some Italian herbs. Okay. And we're going to make a ranch dressing. So that was like a dip that you could turn that into ranch dressing easily, but this is going a little more on the Italian side. And now these Italian herbs are really powerful. They're actually powerful antibiotics, believe it or not. Yes, all Italian herbs have antimicrobial activities. However, most of them, or all of them, like garlic, target mostly the bad pathogens and bad bacteria and bad yeast that try to make a home in our body, and viruses. So same with, almost all essential oils have some sort of property like that, but you can get that from the Italian herbs, and that's why in marinades you see mostly Italian herbs, in marinades, because they're used to help inhibit the growth of bad bacteria in a marinade. So we've got oregano. This oregano looks really beautiful. And oregano, there's been studies now where they use this in hospitals, the oregano oil, and it kills the superbugs.
Wow.
Like the super crazy staph infections that people get, that none of they can't develop the drugs fast enough. I think it's tea tree oil, oregano, and a couple others have been shown to be able to just eliminate that stuff. I don't use antibiotics. I had to get a bone graft several years ago. This is right after I helped heal my husband, and first, I used to be a school teacher, and then I helped heal my husband from 2 diseases. Stanford doctor said were incurable, and that's how I kind of got into the therapeutic chef and probiotics. And I had to have a bone graft because I had a dental surgeon miss doing a root canal and went out, and then the whole thing got infected because they capped it, and it totally infected. So I'd have a bone graft, and the first thing they did was put me on antibiotics. I took one, and I was just like, no way. And I was first learning about probiotics. I didn't know how bad they were. I didn't know that they completely wipe out species, and you never get to see them again. I just know that it made me feel so horrible, and that I had to go teach. I couldn't feel like that. I couldn't feel like I had lifeless energy. I needed to have strength, and so I was like, I can't do this. And I called Craig, and he was like, just turmeric, chlorophyll. He had all these things, and I didn't need them. My son had pneumonia. My family was like, you gotta put him on antibiotics. We totally did it. We healed him without, just natural. I mean, we did use natural antibiotics like grapefruit seed extract and some of the essential oils and things. And we had a nebulizer. I'm not saying this is right for everybody. I'm just saying that this is what I do. Okay. Wait, I don't want to get a clean spoon because this is going to be a nut-free. This one, oh gosh, so I should have told everybody. This pesto has walnuts. Did I?
You said that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Yeah. Okay. So another way to do this is dill, like a whole. Dill is really good on like a really hot day. So you'd want to go with like dill, and then on more of like a cool, foggy or windy day, you want to do the more robust Italian herbs.
So you have parsley and oregano in that.
Yeah. Yeah, parsley, that's dill.
And Italian.
And I think there's there's also thyme in here as well. Parsley, oregano, and thyme. And then you can also do you can do dill. I've done dill and mint because those are really cooling.
Yeah.
And then the more robust herbs are stimulating, but the dill and the mint are more relaxing and soothing. So.
So what are you putting in there? Is that sour cream?
Yeah, it's the same sour cream. I wish I had some homemade sour cream, but I didn't. I didn't have any on hand. Okay, we're gonna do some onion here.
What are you making?
I'm making this is just a different version without the nuts. It's instead of pesto. So this is if you don't have, you want to make like a ranch dressing or a nice dip, but you don't have pesto. You don't have homemade pesto on hand. This is just another way to do it. So basically what I want to show you is the possibilities are endless. I mean, after taking this class, the biggest thing that you could walk away from is knowing that you can create your own probiotic condiments and that you never have to buy the dead condiments on the shelf that are full of starches and preservatives and thickeners and refined salt. You can take these really healing, loving ingredients and combine them, and then every meal is probiotic because you're going to have a fermented salsa or you're going to have, a fermented something with your meal or maybe it's not fermented but it has probiotics and it's going to help you digest and assimilate your meal.
Kelly, will you have some recipes too about how to put certain biotics in there? And do you have some things to hand out like that, or we can go online to see some of your recipes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also recommend taking my online class, The Healing Art of Fermentation. And I have coupon codes too for 50% off. So it's really cheap. It's only like $47 and you get half off. So and it's practically free. And what's cool about it is it has 20 different segments, so you can actually watch. Like if you forget something, what did she say about cleaning, and what did she say about sanitation, and what did she say about the kefir grains, and how do I do it? You can watch different spots over, and then once you get access, you keep the access, so you can kind of continue to, refresh your memory if you forget things. So it's a nice resource for beginners. Okay, so now I'm going to add the olive oil here. And then, I actually forgot, I was going to pick some lemons from my tree, because lemon juice would be really nice. The other thing, if you don't have lemon, one thing you can do is you can actually let this ferment, and then you can let it get more sour, right? So like I'll probably put this in a jar and stick it in my cabinet overnight, and then taste it and let it ferment and let it get a little more sour.
But not refrigerate. You like it at kind of the temperate.
It's not going to ferment in the fridge. Yeah. And the problem with the fridge is some things you can ferment in the fridge, but a lot of times it's so cold and it's so slow that the populations just can't grow to actually complete a ferment. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. but with the room temperature, that's where the cultures can really thrive and multiply really quick. And you want it to be quick because you want them to start producing the lactic acid. You don't want it sitting there for too long, right? Before the lactic acid cultures get a chance. Like that's why, in European climates, they use tons and tons of salt because it's cold and it has to sit for a long time. So the salt's there to inhibit putrefying bacteria before the lactic acid cultures take over your sauerkraut vat or whatever it is, and it reduces the possibility of spoilage. Okay, so we've got sauerkraut juice works in here. We're gonna add, where's the whey? Here we go.
So it could be whey or lemon juice or kraut juice.
It could be whey, lemon juice, or kraut juice, yeah.
And it's 70 degrees, is that what you said? Or just room temp?
Oh, just room temperature.
And sealed or not sealed?
It's just, here's the thing. If it's winter, your ferments are gonna take longer. If it's summer, they're gonna go really fast. You gotta be on them. Yeah. And then all the ferments I do are sealed, except for kefir is the lid is loose. Because unless you, if you want your kefir, if you want carbonated dairy, then sure. It's gonna be really busy. It's kind of fun. But if you want it just more mellow, like if you want your kefir more yogurty, then lid loose is the best solution. Okay, so salt. Oh, and then I'm gonna do a little cider vinegar. Since I never put the lemon in the sauce in here. Okay. Not too much. I don't want to overpower sour. And then we're going to do, I'm going to use some of this grapeseed oil. So what I'm doing is I'm just modeling, having different oils. I don't know if there's avocado, but avocado would be good. Grapeseed oil, so you get the different benefits from the different oils. Always find raw, virgin, unrefined oils.
So what are you putting in there?
So you put the herbs, you
Yep.
did onion, you did the sour cream.
Yeah.
You're doing 2 different oils.
Yes,
Okay.
A little bit of vinegar.
and the thing is, it's always this. When you do this at home, you're just gonna look through your cabinet and be like, oh cool, I have this, and that go, oh yeah, that would go really good. You're kind of gonna be like, well, that onion really needs to be used up. If I don't use it now, it's not gonna be good. Okay, I'm gonna use it. So this is why I'm modeling, like, not feeling tied to having to do it a certain way.
Okay.
I really want to model the creative experience. Like that's the other, like if I can give you a gift, it's to sort of build the confidence to make mistakes and experiment and have fun with it. So we're gonna use garlic powder. It'll be a lot quicker than trying to use some garlic. Okay. Normally I would always use fresh garlic, but
We forget, yeah.
okay. Thank you. All right. So. Okay, so here's our antiviral, antimicrobial, right? This is what you want to feed people when it's like flu season or cold season. Okay, one of the things that would be really good to do is you make some kind of a pasta dish or a veggie dish, and after you're done cooking it, you put a bunch of this on and it makes a beautiful Alfredo. Okay, and then it's pretty thick. It's definitely ranch dressing. It's pretty ranch dressing. For kids, for my child, if I was going to give this to Gabe, I would actually blend it more. Let's see. Because kids, they don't like the big chunks in their dressing. I love it, like in the dip. And of course, if you're using a Vitamix, it's gonna be like, you can get it smooth as silk. Just totally creamed. Completely. Not as much with the food processor.
Have you used that?
Yeah, one of my previous housemates had one and I used it.
I think, can you do the, like the food processor just by pressing kind of?
You can do the food processor. You can do, I do it with this, I use this thing all the time because stick blender just because I'm too, you know, sometimes I get too lazy and I don't want to clean the Vitamix, so you know, this thing's awesome. I could have just stuck it in a mason jar.
Got it.
Right.
And it just like reduces your dishes because you just put it in the mason jar and then the mason jar goes in the fridge, right, or in the cabinet, and then you're done. Which is great, yeah. But these you want to get wide mouth mason jars for these guys.
Yeah, go ahead. Hold on. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna get a clean spoon. So now you know why I said I tell everyone to come on an empty stomach.
Yeah.
Because it's just you know, I like people coming and salivating. I can't wait. I'm watching this. I can't wait to taste it.
I love Alfredo.
Sit down. You gotta show, yeah.
I need celery.
Oh yeah, celery. This is a good celery.
Okay, I got it.
Oh my gosh.
Looks amazing.
You know, like, how do you know when it's spoiled? Like, where's the light? And I don't know enough about fermentation, so this is brand new to me. But I want to know, like, if I were to make something like this, what's the difference, or how do I know when it's fermenting as opposed to like boiling, like fungus or whatever? I mean, how do you know?
Yeah, okay. There's a fine line between fermentation, rotting, and spoiling.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, sometimes spoiled foods are foods that a culture eats as a fermented food, like natto. Right? It's clearly spoiled, it stinks, it smells like poop, it's disgusting, but it's like somehow good for you. So, given that, it's what do you want to be putting in your body? What do you want to be putting in your mouth? What's making you feel fresh? What's making you feel alive? What's appealing to your nose when you smell it? Right? If you get a reaction that's like, ugh. Like there could be some crazy fermented thing that you're getting a reaction like, ugh, and someone else is like, ooh, maybe there's some weird bacteria that they need, right? And you're just like, And that's one of the things, the other gift that I would love for everybody to take is the gift of intuition and knowing what foods are best for your body and what things you probably don't need in your body. But the main thing is that signs of bad, obviously any sign of mold or any musty, moldy smell, like throw it out. You know, not always, because there's certain cheeses where you eat mold. I mean, not all mold is bad, but in general, it's a good thing. Like if you're doing lacto-ferments, there should not be any mold smell. There's no reason to have any mold in a lacto-ferment. Mold, you shouldn't have mold. Your kombucha shouldn't smell moldy. It shouldn't be funky, musty. You know, it should be clean tasting. So that your sauerkraut should not be funky, musty, moldy. It should be clean and sour and fresh. Even sauerkraut that's been fermenting for, like, I've got sauerkraut that's like butterkraut at my house right now. Even though it's like butter and it's been fermenting so long, the fibers have just been completely broken down. Almost like it's been cooked for literally like, I have to cook a regular cabbage for at least 30 minutes to get it that soft as my ferment did it. And it just melts in my mouth, but it's still fresh and I can tell there's no mold. I don't taste or smell any signs of any kind of musty, moldy, funky. So that's what you want to say.
Musty, moldy, funky.
Musty, moldy, funky. Yeah, bee kvass. It's really typical. Bee kvass, everybody, I've got white things floating on the top. Okay, so most likely on a lot of blogs, just scrape it off, it's harmless, colonies of yeast and bacteria. Well, maybe that's partly true, but if you're getting white things, it's probably mold. You probably don't want it there.
Yeah.
It's really typical in bee kvass. What you want to do is when you start playing with fermentation, you want to make sure things are clean. And This is another reason to take the class, online class, because I go over sanitation, different things you can do, and the importance of that so that you mitigate the possibility for mold contamination or whatever, stuff that you don't want. Fingernails, you don't want to inoculate with what's under your fingernails.
Right.
Scrub brushes are nice before prepping. Okay, so we have a couple more recipes, and this is where I get to actually do the stick blender, and then we get to end the little dessert, which is really exciting.
Is there more than that?
There's a lot, look, there's a lot more.
Okay, so in how long would you leave this out, or is this something that goes right into the refrigerator since it has some dairy in it?
Oh, so this is what I would do with this, which is what I'm going to show you now. It's just going to go back into the container linen, and then I'm going to leave it out because the dairy, this company, they don't pasteurize after they culture, so their cultures are live, so it'll just continue to ferment.
How long would you leave it out? For a couple of days? You want it to be considered?
I'm going to leave this one out. It kind of depends, like if it's really warm out, it's going to go a lot faster than if it's cold. And I'm gonna let this go for sour. Like when you make your own homemade sour cream, it's pretty fast. It's only like 2 days. Yogurt is only 8 hours. Yogurt's done in 8 hours. Kefir takes about 3 days. And then you can have kefir that's only been fermenting 2 days. It's gonna taste a lot better, and your kids are gonna like it more. Or you can ferment it 3, and it's like super sour and exploding, but it's like, and your gut is like, woo! Oh, thank you. So there's also that playing around with what you want. Yeah.
But again, out on your counter, not in your fridge, because it's got to.
Yeah, not.
Yep, you just have to hang out. Interesting.
Okay. Okay, where's it? So I'm grabbing a glass pitcher. Okay. And then what was I handing? Oh no, we're not doing it. So do you hear that?
I did.
Okay, so this is fermented ketchup. It's definitely fermented, and I did this with the class on Friday, and it fermented for 2 days at room temperature, and I'm just gonna stir it up. So if, I don't know, I could have bought sausage and cooked you guys sausage.
Cheese.
Now this ketchup, I normally like thin it. It's pretty thick and pasty. I'm actually going to add a little water, but I also added a little allspice in here and a little bit of cayenne. You can also roast peppers. You can roast peppers. You can cook peppers, and then you can blend the peppers with the tomatoes. And then whey is the inoculant for this. You can't take a can of tomato paste and ferment it because it's dead. It's just, you're gonna kill yourself. You're probably gonna get some really gnarly bad bacteria in there. Yeah. But I added the whey, the kefir whey, to start it. You can also add that Inner Eco, that probiotic coconut water. Not Kavita, that's just a drink. That's not really that probiotic, but it's sold in the actual supplement section. It's called Inner Eco. I don't know if you've seen that. That mix, I've done ketchup with that too, and it works pretty good. Okay, so that's what you can do is just taste a little bit on your veggie, and then I'm going to show you how to make it.
And the ketchup girl. No burgers allowed.
So this is a really cool way to basically get your hubby and your kids to be into, it's, you can also, if you add molasses to that and a little more cayenne, what do you get?
Delicious.
you get a lacto-fermented barbecue sauce, right? And when you marinate stuff in that barbecue sauce, it's gonna marinate way faster because the enzymes and the lactic acid are gonna penetrate the meat and help to tenderize the meat a lot quicker.
So what happens to
It's a nice little kick in it.
the little guys when you cook them? Like you tenderize the meat and then you cook the meat.
When you cook probiotics, they're dead, they're inactive. But there's still some benefits from their genetic information. And also because during the fermentation process, probiotics are creating new nutrients and antioxidants and phytonutrients and compounds that have benefits that don't die with heat. So you're going to kill the enzymes, you're going to kill the probiotics, but they also increase nutrient content in food. Like you can have a cabbage, but then you ferment that cabbage, you have 75% more vitamin C, right? So they're not only increasing nutrient content, but then they're actually creating these healthy compounds that didn't even exist before. And a lot of those actually do survive. So even if you take a kraut and you cook it, it's healthier than just taking a cabbage and cooking it. You're gonna get more benefits.
So you can slap on Maureen to your chicken and grill it. She's wondering barbecue sauce.
Yes.
Just do it afterwards. I'm on to you.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, sometimes I'll cook, like if I use this as an Alfredo, sometimes I'll add some in when it's really hot. And then I'll have a little extra, and then at the end, I'll add a little extra. So it doesn't cool, because I don't want it to cool the meal down, because it's not, if I'm pulling it out of the fridge, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Of course, anytime you cook dairy, you're the proteins are becoming harder to digest, of course. Okay, so it's crazy how easy this is. So I'm just opening up a can of tomato. So here's an interesting factoid. There's been, probably hundreds of thousands of people around the world getting sick, foodborne illnesses from packaged and canned food, but how many have ever gotten sick from lacto-fermented food? 0. So that's why Louis Pasteur said, I take it back, everything I taught, I take it back.
I thought you said not to use tomato paste.
You use tomato paste, but this is dead. So there's nothing fresh and raw, right? So there's no like if I want to make lacto-fermented pickles, all I need is pickles, water, and salt, and then the lactobacillus on the pickles will actually ferment in the jar. But if I cook those pickles, chances are, who knows? Maybe if enough, maybe if some beneficial cultures fell in from the air and some beneficial yeast, I could get a pickle. But your chances of contamination are huge.
Well, how are you going to ferment it with the paste in it?
That's the beautiful way from the sacred mother goddess culture. By the way. And you can also use that Inner Eco product that's sold where the probiotic capsules are in the fridge.
So then once you mix it, you just put it in the fridge then, because then you don't need to...
No, you don't want to, because you actually want to ferment it so it gets a little sour and so it gets more probiotic. So you add about, it only takes about a tablespoon of, this is really similar to Inner Eco, although this, when it's fresh, has even more probiotics than Inner Eco, and an amazing diversity. Although I have to say I'm pretty impressed by that product.
And it's coconut water?
It's fermented coconut water, but it just has billions and billions of cultures.
So it's not dairy though.
Huh?
It's not dairy, so the coconut.
It's not dairy, exactly.
People that
Yeah.
don't do
I
dairy.
mean, the cultures arrived from dairy, but somehow they figured out how most of the probiotics on the market, I would say 90% of the cultures arrived from dairy.
Right.
Okay, so I'm just stirring this, and then I'm gonna add water from here. Actually, I don't know why I added half water.
Right?
So little bit of allspice, just a teeny pinch there.
Tiny bit.
And then I'm gonna add a teeny pinch of cayenne here. Just spike it up a teeny bit. And then I'm gonna add a small clove of garlic. Yeah, I don't know, it's a little bit too small. Yeah, we'll go a little bigger. I was thinking that as you said it, so I was like, okay, that means I have to go bigger.
I don't know. I was just commenting.
No, and that's because your body is like, what? I need more garlic. It's not you commenting, it's them. They secreted that hormone to give you that idea. Well, it's crazy how that works. Like,
Yeah, that's great.
it's amazing. Like, I mean, if you kill your good probiotics and you have this oversupply of candida, you're just a hormonal mess. You're a hormonal mess because they're just secreting all these toxins that make you crave all the sugar and all the stuff that like depletes your energy, and like, and then you can't, and then you feel grumpy 10 minutes later, and then you need more, and it's just this vicious cycle, you know. But once you bring your gut back to full balance and you have this beautiful flourishing microbiota, once you achieve that, you find yourself craving healthy foods. And it's not like I don't eat, like, I'll eat a peanut, you know, I make these like peanut butter grain-free cookie. I'll do things, and my grandpa will make a cheesecake, and I visit him once every few months, and I'll eat it, and I kind of enjoy it, but I also can see how it could be addicting, you know, like how I could like let myself slip into wanting that and having that be my craving instead of like healthy food being my craving, which is predominantly how it is right now. Okay, and also it's the people that you hang out with have a lot to do with your cravings, right? I mean, it's like amazing how that works. Okay, so that's looking like a good consistency. Oh, I forgot the honey. Put the honey in. Here it is. I got this Bonnie Doon honey because I live in Bonnie Doon, and I wanted to model the act of using local pollinator products so that you can build your resistance to local pollens and allergens. Whoa, this does not fit. I really thought it would, so turn it around.
Go the other way, yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna use a little, not too much. It's already sweet, but I like the honey because, you know, when you ferment it to it's sour, it does take some of the sugars away. And if you look, what is the second ingredient in ketchup? It is sugar. But remember, molasses is really good for the barbecue sauce.
Instead of.
Yeah, because then it molasses has the barbecue. It's just kind of more of a classic, especially with the cayenne together. Okay, and you know, I'm gonna add a little onion to this one. So this one's gonna be special. And it's nice. It's gonna, you know, as you add these fresh ingredients with live enzymes, you're just making it less like the can, right? Because it's like starting from can, and you're getting the benefits, all the antibacterial, antiviral benefits of the onion. And remember, they don't, some of them can interact with the probiotics, and some of them can deplete your probiotics, but mostly they're targeting the bad virus and bacteria.
Do you ever make it with fresh tomatoes?
No, it doesn't really work with fresh tomatoes. It's not a ketchup. It's more like a salsa. So I do all the time, but it's different. You definitely can't give it to a kid and have them dip their hot dog in it. They'll just be like, "Why are you giving me salsa?" and then nobody in here can boil tomatoes for 4 days to achieve what? I mean, can any of you boil tomatoes for 4 days? Do you have the capacity? Okay. All right. So April can, whether she wants to. Yeah. See. Right. All right. So now I'm going to take the stick blender.
Yeah, exactly.
see French fries.
What's nice about all these recipes is you don't have to wait for them to ferment. You can just start eating them. I mean, they're not going to use probiotic, but they're great. You know, every one of them. So the one you had was, there was nothing really fresh in it except for the whey, right? And so now you get to taste, where you take it a step further and you're adding in like the garlic and some of the...
You know, should we ask, if there, is there anything
Is there any such thing as too much probiotic? A health
Yeah.
practitioner said that to a friend of mine.
Yeah, there is. And it's not because probiotics aren't totally good for you and you need as many as you can get in your system. That's not the reason why. The reason why is because most people, I would say maybe 80%, have an imbalance in their gut because of overuse of antibiotics and processed foods and GMOs that harm our intestinal balance and toxins. And so what happens is that means you have too many, someone's gonna make a home in there. If it's not the good guys, it's gonna be the bad guys. The yeast and the candida and the fungus that are gonna make a home in your gut, and they're gonna feed off of carbs and starches that you're putting into your body, especially sugars. And then if you're one of those people that has problems and has an imbalance, which many of us are, and you eat, you eat too much raw sauerkraut because someone gives it to you for the first time, you never had it, you can get a crazy detox reaction. Why? Because those bad guys that are in there do not like that. They're gonna start dying off. When they die off, it's toxic. Their die off is toxic, just like and they produce toxins that they're also affecting they're producing toxins as signaling mechanisms to say, don't do that. That makes us feel bad. So it makes you feel bad because you're the host, so they want to survive, right? The bad guys. So that's why at Bowman College they teach all their students that are taking the nutritional education consulting program. They say when you're working with your clients, you have them you only allow them to have like a tablespoon of sauerkraut. I mean, is that crazy or what? I ate like half a bag. Right? And it's like, I can imagine like only being allowed to start off with a tablespoon, but that's how out of balance a lot of people's intestinal microbiome is.
So you'll feel sick though, if that's your situation and you're having too much
It's
probiotic.
called detox reaction, basically.
So that's how you'll know.
Yeah, your stomach will hurt, and then you'll be like, okay, I need to go, and then you
slow it down.
Yeah, so you'll figure out that happy medium, and then what's cool though is as you start to repopulate, you'll start to find yourself wanting bigger portions of probiotics and wanting more, and you're like, I want more, like you just like, yeah.
So Kelly, if you have a sugar need, what would you recommend in its place to kind of start slowly backing down from the sugar? Just if you're craving that sugar, would be a good way to introduce to get yourself slowly off all that.
Okay, so what I do is, and what I teach people,
Yeah, that's good. That's what you need.
it's really good. What I teach people is, I'll just pass it around like this. Okay. Imagine like a really yummy grass-fed sausage. Sorry if you're vegetarian.
Yeah.
If you're not vegetarian, imagine like a really yummy. If you are, imagine tofu document. I can't remember tofu. Imagine a French fry. Imagine a sweet potato fry.
Yeah,
There you go.
I can go there.
Oh, I love sweet potatoes.
Me too. Me too.
Now that would just be really epic with a sweet potato fry. Fried in not olive oil, coconut oil.
Yeah.
Or ghee. Not olive oil. I can't. I was like, why are you frying in olive oil? It's too precious and sweet and virgin. You don't fry because it'll break down and not be healthy anymore.
No.
Okay.
Do you make fermented cookie dough?
I fermented cookie dough. I probably have. I'm sure I made it. I don't know if it was by accident or on purpose, but I'm sure it happened. Okay, let's see. The next thing I'm going to show you is, actually, I don't think I'm going to show it to you. I'm just going to tell you how it's done. And the recipe is emailed to all the recipes are emailed to you except for the beet one. Nobody gets that one because that's just what you have to do. That's your assignment, is to like just
Throw everything in a pot and make
throw it in and don't worry about the ratios and just do what your heart says to do. And oh, this is pretty, so I'm going to put it in. Oh, this is fresh, I'm going to put it in. And have fun with it. So, anybody recognize this? Yeah, horseradish.
Oh,
This
neat.
stuff will grow. It'll take over your whole yard if you like plant this thing in there. Just,
Horseradish. I love horseradish.
powerful.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
Powerful.
But what an astringent. What a cleaner.
Such a cleaner. And if you have any kind of nasal anything happening, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's all gone.
What do you do? You juice it?
No, I'm not going to do anything with it because we're just running out of time because I still want to do the dessert. I still want to serve that to you. And
we're still full of questions.
exactly.
Looking at you.
Exactly. And I want to, like, while we're cleaning up, and I want to make sure you get to fill your jars and all that. And then I can still answer questions like while you guys are filling jars and everything. But basically, I would just take a grater and I would, peel the horseradish, and I would grate about a couple tablespoons of this, and I would put it in my mason jar, and I would also add. Yeah, I left them here. I would also add a yellow and a brown mustard seed, a little bit of raw honey, and I would do a whole pack of each. 2 tablespoons horseradish, okay, about 1 tablespoon raw honey, and then you're gonna add a little spring water, and you want to add just enough water, you want to add, start with 2 tablespoons. You don't want to overwater it, and then 1 tablespoon away, which you'll see the recipe. And then you're just going to put it in your blender or use your stick, and then pulverize it as much as possible until the seeds start to. You're still going to be a lot of seeds in there, but then a lot of them are also going to be caught on the blade. And then you basically have this crazy fermented mustard that's so crazy spicy. And then you can take that and you can, and it only takes a day or 2 to ferment, and then you can take that and you can use it as a marinade. And it's even more powerful. It's the most powerful marinade that I've found. You take a chicken and you go like this, and you pour some of it on there. You take a fork and you pour some of it on there, and just in an hour, your chicken's totally tenderized. It's just amazing. But you can also use it, for just flavoring things that you would normally use mustard for. You can add a little extra honey and lemon and blend it again, and then you can use that as a honey lemon mustard kind of dressing. And then for kids, you don't want to put it's spicy mustard. Yeah, for the yellow, if you don't want spicy, just do more yellow and less brown.
Are those little packets in there?
And then they're little, I'll pass them around. They're just little mustard seeds, and it's in little pouches.
Okay, yeah.
And then, of course, mustard is just like horseradish, where it's really good for clearing. All these things have detoxification properties and antiviral, antifungal properties as well. Almost, all the garlic and the onion and the mustard and the horseradish, all those, the radishes, all those are for clearing out. And that's what our bodies want to do in spring, so it's perfect. Sorry, I just showed you. So this is cultured pasture butter, so it has live cultures in it. And it's pasture, so it's healthy because the cows had access to pasture, and they had the dandelion greens, and they had all these amazing things that they break down into smaller and smaller, particulates and nutrients through their digestive system that we get to absorb instantly. And fat is one of the best. Fat is the best way to carry fat-soluble nutrients, obviously, to the system. turmeric is one good example. Like you can't, it's really hard to get the nutrients from turmeric unless you're cooking it with fat or having fat with it, blending with fat. What brings?
What kind of cultures do you, because I make my own butter and I'm looking for the culture for it. What kind of culture do you put in it?
I don't, so when I make my own culture butter, I just take kefir and then I add it to my cream and then I let that ferment and then I separate the butter from the buttermilk. And I culture it that way. I think some people might culture it after. I don't really know how that works. And I don't remember seeing anything in Standard Cat's book either, but I'm sure there's online resources. I mean, anything you can find on the internet, pretty much. Which is amazing, right?
Yeah, the access, the availability of it.
Yeah. And of course, you have to be careful because there's also really stupid stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. So some of these are going to have the cultured butter, and some of them are going to have crème fraîche. And remember when I said you could make your own sour cream by just adding 2 tablespoons into a pint and then fermenting it for a couple days in a jar? Well, you can also make your own crème fraîche. Right? It's just a different culture. So you do the same thing, 2 tablespoons in a pint, and you let it ferment for about 2 days, and then you get your own homemade crème fraîche. There's an organic brand. I don't remember where I saw it. It's really expensive. It was amazing. It was an organic crème fraîche. I don't think it was here. I saw it. Okay, and then can I have a volunteer come up and help me? We're going to spread the Okay, so now this is the fermented fig butter. Okay, and then you're going to spread it on top. And a little bit of
Oh my God.
So fermented fig butter is the same as the chutney. Yeah, perfect. That's perfect.
Really thick, Michelle.
So to make fermented fig chutney, you just soak. You chop up figs. It could be dried or fresh, but if you use dried, you just chop them in a bunch of little pieces, and you add some spring water to cut just to the top of the figs, and then you add your spices. I think I put cardamom, clove, and then you add some salt. I always use a good high quality, unrefined, healthy salt like Himalayan salt. And then you don't need to add like honey or anything because the figs are so sugary. And then a little bit of whey, or you can also, it works well with the coconut one too if you don't have the whey. And then you just let it, I put the lid on and then I let it ferment for 2 days. And I tasted it and it was perfect. If it went further, it would have been like tasting like a cordial or something. So 2 days was good. Yeah. And then I blended it, but if I would have left it, it would have been like more like a chutney with the chunks, And it's and you can even like blend it, like just do a quick blend or just stir the heck out of it for the chutney, and then for the butter you just blend it creamy. So they can try those. And the next one I'm